So the process that you'll experience when you're working with my team is, it's a little bit different. Most of the time, a person's going to be working directly with their loan originator. They're going to want to have them as their main point of contact for everything they do. You're always going to reach out to the first person you talk to. I get that, makes a lot of sense. But we tried to make it a little bit more efficient. And if you've been to Chipotle to get a burrito, you'll see you're dealing with a different person in that line. Back in 2014, myself and Ellen Schmidt, my head of operations, we were working together, just the two of us in an office, and I stepped out to get lunch. When I was going to get lunch, I went over to the closest place I could think of, which was Chipotle, and I pulled up, started to walk in. The line was actually out the door. And in Arizona, it kind of sucks to stand outside just a little bit. I was able to stand where I could hold the door open, was waiting for that person to move forward just enough so I can step completely in the store. Well, it was kind of a long line as I stood there and I waited. And as I waited, I needed something to occupy my mind. So I started counting the heads behind the counter. I found it interesting that I counted 11 people working behind the counter. Now, who you interact with is about 5 people. You got the tortilla person, you got the rice and beans person, you got the meat person, you got the salsa person, you got that real stingy one with the guac. Now, when you start looking behind the counter, you've got people in the back cooking, people chopping, people preparing, people running around gathering other ingredients and prepping things up. You've got the store manager walking around. So I found it interesting that they found it necessary to have 11 people to construct a burrito efficiently. So as I stood there, I got to thinking, wait a minute, if they need that just for burrito construction, what do I really, really need for financing something like investment real estate, an intricate financial instrument? There's a lot of paperwork here. There's a lot of steps. And then with the new, the Dodd-Frank Act, the CFPB, and all the regulation we've got since the crash, you need even more people in the process. So I started formulating a plan with each person in that stage. So you will experience interaction with multiple people. I'm not trying to push you off on people. I'm looking for the most efficient process that I can. So when you start the process, you'll go to aaron.chapman.com and you'll click on the Apply Now button. When you get to the next step, you go to a secure website, you will create a username and password. Then you'll fill out the information. Now, currently, we're running into a little bit of an issue with the asset section. It's not saving. So if it doesn't save, just power through and get to the end. Then when you finalize that and submit it over, my team's watching. When they pull that in, they'll do a quick review of it. They'll send you an email with next steps. Those next steps start with just going right back to the same website, aaron.chapman.com. And you click in the client login portion in the upper right-hand corner. When you click on that client login, you re-input your username and password, and then follow their instructions, which is where you upload your tax returns, your pay stubs, your W-2s, your K-1s if you're a business owner. Potentially, you would probably put in your business tax returns if you own more than 25% of it. You would put in 1099s if you're a 1099 employee or contractor, if you will. You'll put in your asset statements, bank statements, 401k, IRA, trading account statements. All this information to be able to show where your assets are at. And then if you have real estate, we'd need to have the most current mortgage statement. If you don't pay your taxes and your insurance within your mortgage statement, you're gonna have to give us a copy of the most recent tax statement, most recent insurance statement, so we know exactly what those payments are. We've got to figure out what your expenses are versus your income. Now, that team, once they get that information, they'll pass it on to Ellen. So you'll hear from Carla, or you'll hear from Nicole on my team that will send that email into you with the instructions, and once they get it and review it, they'll put you in the queue to be reviewed by Ellen Schmidt. Ellen Schmidt's been doing this since 1985. The reason I have her review it, because she looks at it from a very, very in-depth perspective, basically an underwriter, to be sure that when we turn you loose with a pre-qual letter, that you can feel reasonably guaranteed this deal is going to go through. So when that pre-qual letter is ready, she shoots it to me, I review it, I do a signature on it and get that off to you. Now you can go out there and make offers on property. Once you find a property that makes sense and it meets your criteria, be sure they get that to us via our email inbox that's specially set up for contracts, purchase.contract@snmc.com. Once that comes in, Carla or Nicole will review it again, And there's also got Hillary in there that's going to be reviewing them, and they'll be taking a look at those contracts. They'll send out an email to the seller and to potentially to yourself to go over some of that data and make sure that the information is accurate. There's a lot of changes that can happen between the time you start the negotiation and the time you get the final, and there may be different versions, and we may get the wrong version. So we want to make sure we have the right version. Once that is complete, and we have that in, you'll get your file will be set up by Brianne or Jen. And you can go to our website, aaron.chapman.com/about, and you can see all the different people, see their bio, see who you're dealing with. They will send out to your disclosures. We've talked about disclosures in another video, what you need to be looking for. So go back to that. Once they send that out to you, you'll also get another email introducing you to your processor. That could be Christina, that could be Brandy, could be Ann, or could be Andrea. Get to know their background. You go into that About section again on the website. Get to know who you're working with. That's your point of contact. From there on out, anything that you need, they will know more than anybody about your file. If you try and reach out to myself, I will get you the answer, but it might take time. If you're dealing directly with Brianne at that time, or Jen, or Hillary, or Nicole, or Ellen, or any of the others, you can ask them questions too. They'll help you find it. We want to be as available as possible. Now, from there, you're going to finish that process. They're going to get that submitted to underwriting. They're going to order the appraisal, communicate with them on all the processes when it comes to the inspection you're having done, all those things. Once it's sent off to underwriting and approved, our underwriters have to make sure it fits the requirements. Because if we fund this and we didn't meet the requirements, we could end up having to take it back, and we don't want that. So we want to get that funded properly. And once they approve that, we send it on to our funding department. They will review it. They'll communicate with your title company. They will coordinate on your final closing, update the numbers. Many of those numbers on your loan estimate may be inaccurate because we haven't updated them yet because they're still working on it. It takes time to get the exact numbers. So once they get exact, you'll receive that when you're getting ready to close, but you'll be receiving a CD before that, a closing disclosure. Some of that may still be needing to be updated, but it's letting you know you're getting close to closing. You need to look at that. You need to make sure the information is there. You need to ask us. Reach out to the person who sent it to you. Reach out to our representatives, and they will walk you through anything that you need to understand. Then it gets sent on to closing. We'll schedule that closing with you. You'll hear from Nicole, or you'll hear from Hillary. You may even hear from Carla. Their job is to help you to schedule a mobile notary to meet you wherever you need to. Get those signatures done, and when that paperwork comes back to us, we fund the loan. And once it's funded, you'll hear from my team again. We'll reach out to you and send to you your paperwork that you need to have on hand, your first payment letter, some of your other critical documentation to have on hand. Then we will get you some information on who to communicate when it comes to servicing. If you have payment issues, always communicate with us. That assembly line is a necessity to be sure that we're as efficient as possible and covering as much ground as possible. Because one person, they can forget steps because it's crazy times over here. Now, at the very end of it, you'll hear from me. We're going to reach out. I want your feedback. I want to know if there's anything that in the process that we can incorporate to make us better at what we do. I also want to thank you for the trust. We know that there's 300,000 people out here doing this business. I want to be sure that we don't take that lightly, that we appreciate the fact you're willing to be part of your business, willing to have us part of your business, and we want you to know you're part of ours. So thank you.